3 men. 1 confrontation. And a champion so broken, so overwhelmed, so completely destroyed by what just happened, that he walked out of WWE and nobody could stop him. Welcome to Wrestling Stream. Alright Wrestling Stream Nation, welcome back. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button and smash that bell right now because this is the channel where we cover every shocking exit, every explosive confrontation, and every moment that rewrites the history of professional wrestling. And today we have something so dramatic, so unexpected, and so emotionally devastating that the entire wrestling world is still trying to process exactly what just happened. Drew McIntyre, one of the most decorated, most respected, most battle-hardened competitors in WWE history, has quit. And the confrontation that pushed him to that breaking point involved not 1, not 2, but 3 of the most powerful and dangerous figures in this business right now. Nick Aldis, Jacob Fatu, and a championship situation so corrupt, so overwhelming, and so personally humiliating that even a warrior of Drew McIntyre's extraordinary mental toughness could not survive it. So let's break every single piece of this story down. Because this is not just a shocking exit. This is the conclusion of a chapter that has been building with incredible intensity, and understanding how we got here makes what just happened hit 10 times harder. Let us start with Drew McIntyre. Because to truly feel the weight of this moment you have to understand who Drew McIntyre is, what he represents, and what it cost him to reach the breaking point he just reached. Drew McIntyre is a fighter in the purest and most complete sense of that word. He did not have a smooth or easy road to the top of professional wrestling. He was let go from this company at a point in his career when most people would have given up and found something else to do with their lives. He went away. He rebuilt himself completely. He traveled the world, honed his craft, developed into one of the most technically gifted and physically dominant competitors on the planet, and then he came back and he proved every single doubter wrong in the most emphatic way possible. He became WWE champion. He main evented the biggest shows in the world. He carried this company through one of the most difficult periods in its history with a combination of in-ring brilliance, authentic passion, and the kind of genuine star power that cannot be manufactured or faked. Drew McIntyre earned everything he ever had in this business through relentless work, unbreakable determination, and a refusal to accept any outcome other than the one he was fighting for. That is the man who just quit WWE. And knowing that makes this moment not just shocking, it makes it genuinely heartbreaking. Now let us talk about Nick Aldis, because his role in this story is absolutely critical and absolutely fascinating. Nick Aldis holds a position of authority in WWE, and that authority gives him enormous power over the careers and opportunities of the superstars under his watch. He is sharp. He is political. He understands leverage and he understands how to use the power of his position to shape outcomes in ways that serve his agenda. In this story, Nick Aldis has been positioned as a figure whose relationship with Drew McIntyre has become increasingly complicated and increasingly adversarial. Whether through deliberate decisions that put Drew at a disadvantage, through championship matches arranged in ways that never quite gave Drew a fair opportunity, or through a management style that left Drew feeling unsupported and undermined at every critical turn, the tension between Drew McIntyre and Nick Aldis has been building toward an explosion for a very long time. And then there is Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is a force of nature. There is genuinely no other way to describe him. He is physically terrifying, athletically extraordinary, and possessed of a competitive intensity that makes him one of the most dangerous opponents anyone in WWE has ever had to face. When Jacob Fatu is targeting you, when he has decided that you are the person standing between him and what he wants, the experience is relentless and overwhelming and utterly exhausting in a way that wears down even the strongest competitors over time. Jacob Fatu had been on a collision course with Drew McIntyre for weeks. The physical confrontations between them had been brutal. The toll those confrontations took on Drew, both physically and psychologically, was visible and real. Every time Drew thought he had survived the Jacob Fatu problem, Fatu found a new way to make his presence felt and his dominance known. Now let us get into the confrontation itself, because this was the moment that everything had been building toward, and it delivered with a devastating impact that nobody was fully prepared for. The confrontation erupted in a setting that gave it maximum visibility and maximum consequence. This was not a backstage incident that only a few people witnessed. This was public. This was in front of everyone. And that public nature made every single moment of what happened feel even more significant. Nick Aldis set the stage. With the authority of his position behind him, he made a declaration regarding championships, a declaration that made Drew McIntyre's path forward feel deliberately blocked, deliberately unfair, and deliberately designed to frustrate and humiliate rather than to give the deserving competitor the opportunity he had earned. The specifics of that championship decision hit Drew like a physical blow because it represented everything he had been fighting against. The feeling that no matter how hard he worked, no matter how much he sacrificed, no matter how many times he proved himself inside that ring, the people with power over his career were never truly going to let him have what he deserved. And then Jacob Fatu arrived. With the timing of someone who had been waiting for exactly this moment, Fatu stepped into the situation and made it infinitely worse for Drew. The physical presence of Fatu combined with the institutional authority of Aldis created an environment where Drew McIntyre was simultaneously being attacked from two completely different directions at once. His professional future being squeezed by Aldis from one side and his physical safety being threatened by Fatu from the other. Drew fought back. Of course he did, because that is who Drew McIntyre is. He did not shrink. He did not immediately fold. He stood his ground and he tried to fight through the impossible situation he found himself in with the same warrior spirit that has defined every chapter of his career. But there is a limit to what even the strongest and most determined competitor can absorb. And this confrontation pushed Drew McIntyre past that limit in a way that nothing else had ever managed to do. The moment Drew reached his breaking point was visible and raw and completely authentic. You could see it happening in real time. The combination of Aldis blocking his championship future and Fatu dismantling him physically, backed by a system that seemed designed to grind him down rather than give him a fair chance, finally became too much. The fire that has burned in Drew McIntyre's chest through every challenge and every setback of his extraordinary career flickered for the first time. And then it went out. Drew McIntyre quit WWE. Let us sit with that for a moment. Because those 4 words carry an enormous amount of weight. Drew McIntyre. The man who came back from being let go and became champion. The man who never gave up even when the entire world wrote him off. The man whose entire identity is built around fighting through adversity no matter the cost. That man looked at the situation in front of him and decided that enough was enough. That tells you everything you need to know about how significant this confrontation was and how completely it broke something inside one of the toughest competitors this business has ever produced. Now let us talk about what this means for everyone involved, because the consequences of Drew McIntyre quitting WWE ripple outward in every direction. For Nick Aldis, this outcome creates a complicated legacy moment. On one hand, he exercised his authority and got a result. On the other hand, driving a competitor of Drew McIntyre's caliber and popularity out of the building through championship manipulation is the kind of decision that invites enormous backlash. From the locker room, from the fanbase, and from anyone in this business who believes in fair competition and earned opportunity. Aldis got what he wanted in this moment. The question is what the long-term price of getting it looks like. For Jacob Fatu, this is a significant moment of validation. He was part of the force that broke Drew McIntyre. He stood in front of one of the most formidable competitors in WWE and watched him walk away. That does something for your reputation. That does something for your confidence. And a Jacob Fatu who is already terrifyingly dangerous operating with that kind of psychological validation becomes an even more frightening prospect for everyone remaining on the roster. For the locker room as a whole, Drew McIntyre quitting sends a message that cuts through every layer of professional wrestling politics and lands with cold, hard clarity. If Drew McIntyre can be broken, if Drew McIntyre can be pushed to the point of walking away, then absolutely nobody is safe. Nobody is too strong, too experienced, or too decorated to be ground down by the right combination of institutional power and physical force applied with enough consistency and enough cruelty. That realization changes the atmosphere in that locker room in ways that are going to be felt for a very long time. And then there is the question that every single wrestling fan is asking right now: is this truly the end for Drew McIntyre in WWE? Because professional wrestling history is full of dramatic exits that turned out to be the beginning of the greatest comeback stories ever told. Drew McIntyre has already written one of those comeback stories in his career. Could he possibly write another one? Could the humiliation and heartbreak of this moment become the fuel for a return so powerful, so emotionally charged, and so personally motivated that it dwarfs everything he has ever done before? That possibility, That hope is what makes this moment not just a devastating ending but a potentially electric beginning. The Drew McIntyre who comes back from this, if he comes back from this, is going to be operating on a completely different emotional level. The anger, the hurt, the feeling of being robbed and broken and forced out of a place he poured everything into, all of that becomes ammunition. All of that becomes motivation. All of that becomes the fire for a return that could shake WWE to its absolute foundation. Nick Aldis and Jacob Fatu may have won this battle. But if Drew McIntyre comes back, and everything about who he is suggests that he will, they may have just created the most dangerous and most motivated version of a man who was already one of the most dangerous competitors in the history of this business. And that, Wrestling Stream Nation, is exactly where we stand. Drew McIntyre has quit WWE. Nick Aldis wielded his power. Jacob Fatu inflicted the damage. And the entire wrestling world is holding its breath waiting to find out what comes next. We will be right here on Wrestling Stream covering every single development as this story continues to unfold. Subscribe right now if you have not already. Hit that like button if this breakdown hit you right in the feelings. And get into those comments because I need everything from you. Do you think Drew McIntyre comes back? Who is responsible for what happened? And when Drew returns, and he will return, who do you want to see him go after first? The comment section is completely yours. Let us have this conversation together. Until next time, stay passionate, stay loud, and never stop loving this sport. I'm your host, and this is Wrestling Stream.